Welcome back to Echoes of Middle-earth. Today, we delve into a question that rests at the heart of the War of the Ring, a question of cosmic might and mortal destiny. Is Gandalf truly more powerful than Sauron? On one side, we have Sauron, the Dark Lord, the architect of endless malice, whose shadow stretches across the world, whose terrible power is concentrated in the fortress of Barad-dûr. On the other hand, Gandalf the Grey, the wise counselor, the wielder of fireworks and friendly counsel, who appears as a mere old man. He's capable of being trapped and defeated. The superficial answer seems obvious, but the true answer lies in the ancient, veiled hierarchy of Middle-earth and the deepest secrets of power. To gauge this imbalance, we must first understand the true nature of these two beings. They are not simply a wizard and a demonic king. They belong to the same order of primordial spirits who entered the world in its beginning, the Maiar. Both Gandalf, known among the elves as Barad-dûr, and Sauron, known as Gorthaur, share the same divine origin. Sauron, however, was in the beginning the greatest and most trusted servant of the original dark power, Morgoth. He was nourished in malice and hatred, inheriting immense power that he chose to wield for tyranny and destruction. Gandalf, or Olorin as he was known in the West that is forgotten, was also one of the Maiar. He was counted among the wise, sent by the lords of the West to contest the growing shadow of Sauron. But this mission came with an extraordinary constraint. Gandalf and his brethren, the Astari, were forbidden to match Sauron's power with power, or to seek to dominate men and elves by force and fear. They were sent in the shapes of men, aging slowly, to serve as helpers, advisors, and symbols of unity, operating subtly against the Dark Lord's might. This is the fundamental difference. Sauron used his full, terrible might, amplified by malice. Gandalf deliberately restricted himself, acting primarily through counsel and encouragement, dealing with kings and common folk alike. He was content to blow smoke rings with Bilbo and inspire hope rather than summon lightning. His wisdom was for uniting people, not enslaving them. Sauron's power was concentrated and weaponized, culminating in the creation of the One Ring. He let a great part of his own former power pass into it so that he could dominate all other wearers of the Rings of Power. Sauron's power was built on externalizing his will into a physical token of absolute authority. If Gandalf possessed strength comparable to Sauron, why didn't he simply take the One Ring, turn its power against the Dark Lord, and end the war swiftly? The answer to this is the most definitive statement on their relative power levels. Gandalf utterly refused to take the ring when Frodo offered it. His refusal was not due to humility, but terror. He knew that with that power I should have power too great and terrible, and that the ring would gain a power still greater and more deadly over him. He feared that if he took it, he would inevitably be drawn to dominate others and become consumed by the evil artifact, setting himself up as a new Dark Lord, indistinguishable from Sauron himself. This confirms that Sauron's investment in the ring gave him a spiritual advantage that Gandalf, constrained by his mission to remain good, could not overcome without becoming the very evil he fought. Sauron's power was not just might, it was utter, dominating control, and the ring was its perfect instrument. The temptation was overwhelming precisely because Gandalf was one of the wise, and his desire to wield the ring for the greater good would instantly be corrupted into a desire for absolute mastery. Indeed, the strength of the Dark Lord was so great that even when Frodo wore the ring, though invisible to ordinary eyes, he became visible to the Nazgul because he was on the threshold of their world. The ring drew Sauron's servants to it. It was the greatest task of Gandalf to merely counter this dark influence and guide the ring-bearer to safety. Sauron's dominance seemed complete when Gandalf faced the Balrog beneath Moria. This confrontation, however, marks a turning point in the beginning of Gandalf's authorized ascent in power. The Balrog, Durin's bane, was itself a Maiar spirit, a demon of great might that served Morgoth. Though Sauron did not command it, its presence ensured the closure of the strategic mountain passage. Gandalf wrestled with the creature, and though he destroyed it after a long and terrible struggle, his physical form was slain. Here lies the core of the power debate. Sauron's power is finite and externalized, making him vulnerable to the ring's destruction. Gandalf's power, being constrained and given for a divine purpose, is ultimately renewable. Gandalf was sent back, remade for a brief time until my task is done. He returned as Gandalf the White. This was not merely a new robe, but a new mantle of authority, possessing power beyond the strength of kings. He was now seen as the White Rider, whom Aragorn recognized as the one mightier than they, referring to the 9 ringwraiths. The power transfer was dramatically demonstrated at Orthanc. When confronting Sauron, the former chief of the Astari, Gandalf rejected his treasonous counsel, saying, "I am Gandalf the White, who has returned from death. You have no color now, and I cast you from the Order and from the Council." With a single, clear command, Gandalf raised his hand and spoke, "Sauron, your staff is broken." The staff split asunder, and Sauron fell back. This act confirmed Gandalf's superior spiritual authority over the one who had once surpassed him. Even in his enhanced form, Gandalf did not face Sauron directly because Sauron was too strong. Sauron was not above fear, but his power was exercised through an unceasing watchfulness and malice. The real contest was one of strategy and will. Gandalf's actions, especially after his return, were designed to counter Sauron's deepest fears and assumptions. He knew that Sauron assumed anyone possessing the ring would try to seize power and challenge him in open war. This assumption became Sauron's great weakness. Sauron feared a mighty figure wielding the ring might appear and usurp his dominion. Aragorn, by deliberately revealing himself to Sauron through the Palantir, the Seeing Stone of Orthanc, and challenging him with the sword reforged Andúril, acted as the perfect distraction. Sauron's mind was instantly drawn away from his own land, believing a rival ring lord was preparing an open assault. While Sauron fixed his eye on the armies marching toward the Black Gate, Gandalf was free to pursue the true path of destruction. Gandalf the White became the chief strategist, bringing unity to the fractured free peoples. He rallied Theoden and the Riders of Rohan, led the defense of Minas Tirith, and ensured the necessary chaos to allow the seemingly insignificant hobbits, Frodo and Sam, to continue their hopeless journey. Gandalf's ultimate power lay in his faith in the hands of the weak and his understanding that the destruction of the ring was the only path to true victory. As Elrond stated, the quest could only be attempted by the weak with as much hope as the strong, because small hands do them because they must, while the eyes of the great are elsewhere. So, was Gandalf more powerful than Sauron? In raw, intrinsic destructive power and in the ability to dominate the world, Sauron surpassed Gandalf, particularly when fortified by the One Ring. Had Sauron not poured his essence into the ring, he would have remained a terrible force, potentially beyond even the reach of the Valar for a time. Had Gandalf seized the ring, he would have become Sauron's spiritual successor, a yet another Dark Lord, proving the ring's inherent dominance over his soul. Gandalf's true strength was found in his constrained, appointed authority as the White Rider, allowing him to be the strategic superior. He could match Sauron's malice with wisdom, his terror with hope, and his military might with the unifying resolve of men, elves, and dwarves. The ultimate measure of power is effectiveness. Sauron aimed for permanent dominion over the world, an objective his master Morgoth could not achieve. Sauron's downfall was absolute, failing utterly when the ring was destroyed. Gandalf achieved the miracle of Sauron's defeat, having fulfilled his task and being revealed as a lord of great reverence. In the end, Sauron's power was a consuming fire, binding him to the world he sought to possess. Gandalf's power, though veiled, was the enduring force of creation and purpose. He was not required to be stronger in brute strength, only strong enough to fulfill the will of the unseen powers that governed the world. The comparison between Gandalf and Sauron is like measuring a single perfect seed against a sprawling poisonous tree. The tree is massive and destructive, but the seed holds the secret of a new, pure forest planted by a hand far mightier than either of them. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the echoes of the Elder Days. If you enjoyed confronting the great powers of Middle-earth, make sure to like and subscribe to Echoes of Middle-earth. Until next time, may the White Rider guide your path.